Welcome, I'm Nathan Oliver.
And I'm Amy Oliver.
We are licensed professional counselors that want to share with you what we have learned through our years facing the couch.
In our time with you today, we want to talk about the importance of talking about sex within your marriage. There are a lot of times that we don't actually communicate about it, and it can get to become a source of pain and frustration. So we want to talk about how to avoid an unnecessary struggle by communicating on sex.
At the beginning of your relationship, you probably found that your sexual connection came easily. You were probably able to communicate about it. It was probably a lot more frequent, a lot more passionate, but as time has gone on, as life has changed, it is very easy for this area to become disregarded. A lot of hurt can build up in this area very quickly, and you can find yourselves very disconnected. The majority of couples that we have worked with have had this area broken down for some time in their marriage. And where that started is they stopped communicating about their sexual relationship.
So you want to share openly with one another about your likes and your dislikes, your interests, the things that you desire, as well as what your needs are. You want to talk about it outside of the bedroom, not when sex is currently being pursued or even an option, so that it's not becoming a source of frustration or conflict. Sex is a beautiful opportunity to connect physically and emotionally when it's done well. So you want to take the time to discuss with each other what your needs and your interests are, because you have to understand you're not just navigating personality differences and male and female differences, but you're also navigating the different seasons of life. All of that can contribute to a breakdown in the enjoyment as well as the frequency of sex.
Many couples fear that talking about this area will only make it worse. Or they fear that when they bring it up, they'll be rejected in some way. Or they've tried talking about it in the past and nothing changes. And that can be very wounding. Now, there are some couples where it might not be wise to try to talk about this. If there's been heightened levels of rejection or woundedness in this area, then we definitely encourage you to reach out to a third party like a counselor to help bring health and healing to this area. It can often be a very slow process. It definitely starts, though, with a conversation. Without that, there will be no change in this area. And we recognize and understand that starting that conversation can be difficult.
You know, our culture tells us that this part of our marriage and our relationship should just be organic, that it should be pleasurable all the time, easy, no effort, and certainly no conversation. But this is simply not true. Sex is just like finances or household duties, leisure activities. It's something that needs to be discussed. It needs to be understood, and it changes over time within your relationship, making it really important to set aside the time to talk about it.
There are several things that can come against your sexual relationship: busyness, children, tiredness, social media, distractions. And over time, it just becomes easier not to talk about it. Over time, it becomes less frequent, less connecting, less passionate. But we want to encourage you that when this area is healthy in your marriage, everything else becomes easier. When you begin to have conversations about this area, things that you like, things that you don't like, ways to prioritize this, ways to bring a new life into it, it will have a positive impact on your parenting, on your evenings, but it takes you prioritizing it. It takes you realizing that it is worth talking about this. Your marriage is worth it, and your sexual relationship is worth pouring into and having conversations about. Now, that can be very intimidating to do. So what we encourage you guys to start with is maybe to sit down and write out what you need in your sexual relationship. That may involve frequency, that may involve communication, that may involve physical touch. The beauty is that you get to share romantic relationship with your partner for the rest of your lives. It is something unique to your marriage. And it is something that when it is healthy, like we said earlier, it makes everything else easier. So it is worth that conversation. Sometimes it's easier to start with writing before you start having a conversation with each other. So we encourage you to sit down and do some of that writing.
You know, it doesn't need to be an emotion-led conversation. It really can be a factual exchange of wants and needs, just like Nathan has said. But really, it's an opportunity for you as a couple to dream of what this area of your life, this area of your marriage can look like, much like you would dream of the future or plan a vacation. So dream together and then work together to achieve that within your marriage.
a great place to start is to try to look at your schedules, look at your evenings, see what is coming against this area in your marriage, reprioritizing some of your time so that you can spend time in the evenings talking, so you can spend time connecting, so you can actually tell each other your desires. So we would encourage you guys to come up with some real practical ways. And if anything, just come up with one thing that you can do differently, just one shift that you can make in this area. As I said earlier, it can be a slow process. If you have any other questions about marriage, anything at all that you would like for us to answer in future videos, please leave those in the comments section below. In addition, we have a podcast on all of these topics that we do on YouTube, where we have a much longer, more intentional conversation. We go in much greater depth. So if you're interested in this area, please click on the link below to our podcast.
You know, starting the conversation could feel really uncomfortable. You might feel silly. You might feel shy. That's okay. It's totally normal, but it's worth the conversation. So make it a priority. Put in the time. Talk about sex.